Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, Garbage Time Takes. I'm Derek here with my co-host Bob.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. It's been a couple weeks. A lot of stuff has happened in the sports world. As you can see, Dennis unfortunately is not here today due to some personal matters. So unfortunately, he won't be here this week. Looking forward to having him back next week, though. Speaking of Dennis, Bob, how was your trip to Philadelphia last week?
It was a great time. Shout out to Dennis, who's not here, for being a gracious host, and I was able to make some travel plans work. Went out there and see a little bit of what Villanova's all about, and you know see some of the sights. Explore the downtown scene and have some revelry, and it doesn't get much better than that.
That's right. Bob, quick question before we get into the pod. Whose campus is better, CMU's or Villanova's?
It's tight, but really, Villanova doesn't have that big of a campus. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty small. The buildings are very very nice, like the architecture and whatnot. But for what I'm seeing, CMU is pretty comparable. I would.
They don't call us the Harvard of the Midwest for nothing, Bob.
That's correct. That's correct. Um, I mean, I went and toured the library of Villanova, and I don't think I saw a single book, Derek, and I'm a little concerned.
And
Uh,
it's concerning.
uh, Therefore, I mean, Park Library far superior. Um,
The Park
but
Library is a pretty nice library.
I agree. I agree. It was nice. It was nice to visit. We got some. We went down and played some hoops on campus. Some of the hoops out there, and nobody wanted that smoke. Unfortunately,
No,
we
naturally.
were looking, but no, it was a good time.
Good, good. Well, I mean, just speaking of basketball, a lot of March Madness has come and gone since the last pod. I
Correct.
thought about doing a mini upload, just to save the talk from the pod. Got real in depth last time. I thoroughly enjoyed it anyway. On our March Madness talk, but we'll limit this March Madness talk, really just to about the Final Four in the championship. We've got Florida Atlantic coming out of the East region. The East region, as everyone predicted before the tournament started, was probably going to be the major region of chaos. Anyone with a brain knew that Purdue wasn't getting out of the East region alive, and Florida Atlantic is the beneficiary of it all. Then coming out of the South region, we're going to have San Diego State representing the Mountain West. We crapped on the Mountain West, rightfully so, in my personal opinion, right before March Madness started, and they just play really good, disciplined, fundamental, sound basketball. Former Michigan assistant Brian Dutcher, protege of former Michigan head coach Steve Fisher, is running a well-oiled machine down in San Diego State. So they personally, uh, I'll set my disdain for the Mountain West Conference aside. San Diego State will be my rooting interest, due to the Michigan connection, and I'll claim it as a Michigan national championship. Coming out of the West region, UConn finally makes a resurgence to the Final Four. Danny Hurley's got the boys buzzing. They took care of a really solid, Gonzaga team and spanked them real good. And then coming out of it's the last region I have, the Midwest region, Miami ends up pulling off a comeback late without making a single three-pointer to knock off Texas to make their way into the Final Four. That was a team I think I want to say I want to give myself credit for pointing out Miami early on with Jim Larinaga, as being a team that could potentially make a run. Um, Definitely didn't see him getting this far, but good to see Coach L getting into the Final Four. He's always been a really solid coach in the ACC, and Bob, this one's really up for grabs, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, every single team that's made it to this point has kind of had a miracle run of sorts in their own right. Um, I mean, outside of the East, like you were talking about being that chaotic, um, anything could kind of happen bracket, in which case it kind of did. Um, it's not their normal names that here at the end, and I think that makes it. I mean, for some people, that kind of kills the joy, because most the bigger schools bring a lot of viewership, and I know I've heard people around the NCAA talking about that. The blue bloods not being anywhere close to the Final Four. Kind of hurts the brand, because you like to have a Cinderella story, but you also like to have the Goliaths just as much as you like to
Right.
have the Davids in the mix.
Yeah, and UConn is more sort of blue blood adjacent than
Correct.
true blue blood. I mean, granted, they've won 4 national championships since 2000, most of any program.
Correct.
The only problem is when they don't make the Final Four, they just bust out of the tournament early. And recently, pretty much ever since Kevin Ollie left, they were pretty dog. And Danny Hurley's finally gotten them back around, but I'll let you continue. But UConn could work themselves into the blue blood conversation if they're, I mean, five Final Fours with 5 national championships. I mean, that's a 100% success rate, Bob.
Correct. And I'd like to give a shout out to my friend if he's watching the pod, that goes to CMed from Connecticut, a UConn graduate, has been preaching UConn, singing Danny Hurley's praises all season long, and thought that this team was right where it needed to be to make a run. And we actually had that conversation the other day about whether UConn should be considered a blue blood or not. And I think that you laid it out perfectly, just as he did. I mean, the numbers are there, the results are there. No program's really been more successful in that time frame than UConn. They just don't seem to have I don't know, the cult following behind them. Dare I say, is some of the schools that would, I don't know, maybe you could say a little bit more history. I'm sure UConn has quite a history too that many people probably don't even know about. I know I don't, but not having the UNCs, the Dukes, even Gonzaga for that matter, making it to the Final Four kind of does hurt the viewership in a way. I'm really excited for the games though. I think if I had to make a personal pick out of the 4 teams remaining, who's gonna win it all, I think I would go with UConn, just because I think they have shown the highest ceiling out of any of these teams all season long. They are hot. They just came off a big win against Gonzaga, like you mentioned. It kind of beaten the most proven path, dare I say. I mean, maybe outside of Miami, with that knockoff win against Texas, which really they shouldn't have even had. I consider that more of a fluky victory than anything, more of Texas blowing it
Choking.
than I do Miami winning it. But no, I'm very excited for these games. Florida Atlantic, tip my cap to them. They talk about a school that nobody really knows of, making a run. Good for them. But UConn would be my pick, if I had to decide right now.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with the UConn pick. I mean, like you said, they took one. I think Miami beat both Houston and Texas, I believe.
Yeah.
So Miami went through actually 3 of the top 4 seeds, which is kind of impressive. Although Indiana was an
Yeah.
absolute fraud. But they did take down number 1 seed Houston, did take down number 2 seed Texas. I think it would have been more interesting to have a UConn Miami national championship game than a Final Four game. I think that would have been a little bit better television. But UConn definitely in their own right took care of Gonzaga. Absolutely spanked Arkansas, a team that had just beaten Kansas. But where UConn has been really, really good all season, actually, is in the non-conference. I think we mentioned it right before when we were doing our March Madness preview that UConn ran through the non-conference
Yep.
and was one of, if not the last team undefeated before they got into Big East play, and everyone knows that conference play is tough. You play so many teams twice.
They know
You
you
play a lot
well.
of They know you well. You play a lot of high quality teams week in, week out. It wears on you a little bit. And then they got right back into the non-conference, and if just what their win margin is 22 points or something crazy like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Um, I mean, really, the UConn Gonzaga game was the only game from like the Sweet 16 onward that wasn't really that competitive. There might have been another one, but I felt like the entirety of last weekend was just everything
Bloodbath.
was coming down to the wire, and it was super entertaining. Um, but yeah, I'm with you on UConn. I think Miami's going to give them a good run, but I don't think they shoot the three well enough. And when Jordan Hawkins for UConn gets hot, do just make shots. Just make shots. And it's going to be tough, I think, for people to defend UConn's 7-footer. I can't. Donovan Clingan. I really. It was between like Michigan, UConn, and a couple other schools in his recruitment. I wanted him bad. Wanted him bad. But he went to UConn and he's been really good for them. And UConn's really just got, you know, they've got 5 guys who are all really good. They've got solid depth. And yeah, like you said, just probably the most talented team. And when talent is married with a well-coached team, makes it very difficult to beat. Who do you have UConn facing in the national championship, Bob? SDSU or Florida Atlantic?
You see, this
Does the
is
Cinderella run? It's funny though, because Florida Atlantic is a 31-win team from the regular season. We're calling it a Cinderella run. Not your typical like George Mason or Loyola Chicago miracle run, but still nonetheless a very impressive run. And I mean, just another sidebar: the Conference USA won the CBI, won the NIT, and has a chance. They won. I think they won like the 4th tier postseason tournament as well. And so if they were to somehow pull off the miracle national championship win, the Conference USA would be the juggernaut of conferences for college basketball this season with the grand slam of postseason tournament wins. But I digress, Bob. Who are you taking and why?
you know, Derek, I'm riding with Florida Atlantic. I can't deny it. Every time I tune into a Florida Atlantic game, there's a lot of moments where I just think, you know what? It's been a great run. The Cinderella story has been fun to watch, but it's time to come to an end. It just can't keep up. And then somehow it happens again. Florida Atlantic hits 1-3, and then they hit another 3, and then they hit another 3, and then it's just like a barrage just starts. And the momentum, they ride up momentum more than maybe any team I've seen recently. Their fans have been showing up big. I didn't know there were so many FAU fans, but they're showing up, and
Boca Raton stand up.
and they've just their guard play has been very, very good, and that's what it takes come March. And their 3-point shooting has not failed them yet. In times where it looked like it might. Now their size is a little bit questionable, and
They've got a 7-footer thothough.
they do have one 7-footer. I
I can't
agree.
remember what his name is. I can't remember. What
I
his name
agree,
is.
but I don't remember any of their guards really being any too large. I think that's
Not off. I don't know their roster well
correct.
enough.
Yeah, but just from like the eye test of watching it, I remember thinking that they had a lot of like stringy kind of guards that were just kind of really quick, which
I think you're probably right.
and they all shot the 3 very, very well. And then they have like you said, the one statue in the middle that's just mans the block, which is, I mean, really all you need. But I'm just afraid at some point they're gonna get out physicaled, but it never really seems to matter because the 3 ball just is the great equalizer for them. And and like you said, Derek, this team has won over 30 games this season. And
they were top.
I see no reason to stop now.
I want to say they were like top 30 in the net.
Yes.
So it wasn't like even the advanced analytics were super low on them either. I mean,
yep.
Florida Atlantic has been just a very good team. I thought they probably would have been an at-large bid if they didn't win their conference tournament. You never know with the mid-majors how many at-larges they'll get. Um, but yeah, Florida Atlantic's a really good team, and I thought the point you brought up about momentum was really good. I think UConn is the only other team that can match their, the snowball effect. Um, but like I said, right when we got started, I'm going to take SDSU just out of principle for rooting for former Michigan coaches to
Sure.
succeed. Nothing really, I think this is an extremely evenly matched game. Will be another game that comes down to the wire. San Diego State, they sort of got maybe a little lucky with the way that Creighton game ended, getting the foul call on the floater in the lane, the controversial call. I said it during the Super Bowl, and I'll say it again now. If it's a foul in the first half, it's a foul. If it's the third foul of the game with the 16:32 mark, that's a foul at the last 5 seconds of the game to seal the win. I mean, don't put your hand on a guy's hip, and you don't pick up a foul. Let the ball roll where it does. Um, but yeah, just they're just a really solid, good team, and they play really, really good defense. That was their calling card against Alabama. Alabama just thought we can just launch threes all game and probably get away with it. They couldn't. Didn't help that Alabama couldn't shoot, which was sort of the concern about Bama going into the tournament was they rely heavily on the three-pointer, and if it's not falling, they have a chance to get run out of the gym. And they didn't get run out of the gym against San Diego State, but when you let a team hang around and hang around and hang around, you're eventually going to get burned by the fire, and that's what happened. So, yeah, well, I'll have UConn over San Diego State as my championship. Bob has UConn over Florida Atlantic for his championship. It'll be very interesting to see what happens this Saturday and Monday for the championship. Any other final thoughts, Bob? I don't know if you wanted to wrap up sort of the Michigan State season. Really, I mean, I was ticked. I was mad for you with the way that game ended. I mean, Malik Hall, Bob, 86% free throw shooter, and then goes 0 for 3 down the stretch. Just absolute folding like a steel chair under pressure. For some reason, in overtime, letting Tyson Walker just go ISO rather than let AJ Hogard drive on dudes because he was really efficient all game off the bounce, taking dudes to the hole. It just sort of, I don't know, just kind of fell apart at the end, and MSU couldn't guard a backdoor cut, and it's a sucky way to go out.
Yeah.
Because it feels like Michigan State should be in the Final Four. I had Michigan State in the Final Four. I said they were the team in the Big Ten that could get there, and they were that close. They were that close. Because Kansas State ended up playing Florida Atlantic really close. I think MSU probably could have beat Florida Atlantic just due to the size of their guards. Um, and yeah, I was mad for you. I was mad for you.
Yeah, I'm a couple of things about that game.
Go off.
I was actually, I mean, all things summarized, I was extremely proud of how our boys played.
Sure.
Um, I hate like I hate it, but I don't hate it at the same time. That this game was really a culmination of the best things that basically every player on our team had to offer. Every single player on every single notable player on our team shown at some point during the game. Early to start, Joey Hauser gets hot. Kind of leading the team out of like a slow start. At points when Kansas State threatened to kind of bull away a little bit, Jaden Akins would come in and hit a big three. Jaden Akins is going to be a problem. FYI, for the people in the Big Ten, next year Jaden Akins is going to be an issue. So look out for that. And then Tyson Walker, doing what he does. Hitting the shot to get us into overtime. AJ Hogard, very poor start, but came on strong in the second half. Got back to his game of driving downhill. I remember early in the game, he was shooting very, very poorly, maybe like one for his first 5 shots. And then he somehow hits a 3 out of nowhere, which is nowhere close to his game, and managed to bring it back. I have credit to I'm gonna give Tom credit for the fact that you've been riding with kind of in the last bit of the game they were riding with AJ, who looked good, and then having the wherewithal, the confidence still in Tyson Walker to go in there and get the last shot for you to get you into overtime. There was
That was such a gutsy call. Such a gutsy call. I
I,
thought for sure they were going to switch it on to AJ and let him go to work, and
and
Tyson
Tyson's
hit the classic mid-range midi. He
yeah,
hit the midi.
which is just right up his alley. Um, it really hurts the way that the way that we lost is really just the way that hurts the most. We were, our defense wasn't the best throughout the night. I mean, it's just fair to say. I mean, too many easy backdoor cuts. But at the end of the day, both teams were shooting the lights out. There were points where Kansas State, I was convinced, could not miss a three. Every single three they put up was going in. Noel just putting dimes all over the place.
My brother hates Marquise Noel.
I
Hates him.
I do too. But we did contain him offensively. I mean, I know how many times did he nearly single-handedly sunk them, as well as
With his Hail Mary shots, correct.
yeah, and he just
Dude, he kept trying to go for the dagger the entire last 4 minutes of the game and just kept launching brick after brick.
correct. And I don't even know the guy's name at this point, and that should tell you something. But the guy that beat us was this no-name
Masood?
5 point per game average off the bench. Comes in and hits like 4 or 5 threes out of absolutely nowhere, goes unconscious, and sinks us. I mean,
He's in the transfer portal if you want him.
well, somebody better hop on that because or you know what? Knowing him, he'll probably never go hot again, and that was probably just
That was the Dante DiVincenzo game.
But there were and I'll say it just because I've got to say it. There were points at the end of the game I was irritated with some ticky tack calls, some points where I thought we got jobbed, a little bit. I'm gonna feel like that. Everybody's gonna feel like that in any close game where it comes down to the wire. Some calls could have went your way that didn't.
Bob, what about not getting a shot off with 14 seconds left? Out of a timeout, Joey Hauser afraid to take the last shot. Malik Hall wide open, too afraid to take the last shot.
Yep, and
Then
I was just
you
about
don't
to get
even
to
get
that.
one off in the end.
Yep, and just about to get to that, and then it really, like you said, Derek, it came down to, as I said, everybody had their moment to shine, and then at the same time, everybody showed the fatal flaw that is why they were never finally made it over the hump. Malik Hall, all the talent, all the athleticism in the world, goes AWOL. Will not show up. Will go absent. Will go missing. Just as much as he showed up at points during that game, the past other 2 rounds, couldn't find him. Couldn't get any production out of him at all. And he is a guy going into the game. Oh, and the same thing can be said for Joey Hauser, who had a good game. When it comes down to the moment where you need them the most, there's a reason that Malik Hall and Joey Hauser's numbers are not getting called. And that is because they cannot be trusted. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and unfortunately, those 2 guys are not from an outsider perspective, I don't know what goes on in their heads or in the locker room, but from an outsider perspective, they don't seem mentally tough enough to really handle those moments. And like I said,
Just didn't have the dog in him.
And like I said, Joey had
a great game.
A great game. He did everything. I can't fault him. I'm not blaming him in any way for the loss. And Malik, had his moments as well. But
I'll blame Malik for you.
No.
You don't have to blame Malik, but I will.
But there's a reason every time it came down to the clutch, Tyson Walker was getting the shot or AJ Hogard was getting the shot. And that's because those guys did not shy away. When we've had other moments, they did not shy away. I'm going to be really interested to see what this team looks like next year. Who decides that they want to come back?
Pierre Brooks is already gone.
That was a no-brainer. That was
Joey Hauser is officially done. At least according to his Instagram game page.
Yeah, and I was sad to see that. I was really sad to see that from Joey. I understand it.
He'll go make some money in Europe. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He might even find his way into the G League. Who knows?
I guess, but Joey Hauser is as an MSU fan, and I'll try to keep this brief, but he was a guy that when he came to the program many years ago now at this point, because
2020, I think.
Yeah. Had to wait that year, transferring. Tom is
absolutely screwed, by the way.
Yeah.
The NCAA absolutely boned him on his transfer process.
Yep, and Tom Izzo was pissed and quit all the NCAA committees because, of how dirty they did Joey. And then every step of the way, and Tom caught a lot of flack for it. Every step of the way, he kept saying, I have faith in Joey. Joey will come through. He rode him the entire way. He said, when everybody was saying, Joey was supposed to be this 3-point marksman. Where's the sharpshooting? Where's the height being put to use? He was highly touted. Where is this? At first, it didn't seem like it. But you know what? By the time he left the program, you could see where Tom's vision was. And Joey finally was able to kind of realize that vision. And, as a fan, that was a heartwarming experience, even if it wasn't the way, that we wanted to go out. Our team had higher goals, I'm sure, but to see him make that growth and, fans finally kind of embrace him towards the end was a beautiful thing. Tyson, we need you back, man. We need another year. We need another year out of you. We need that COVID year badly.
You guys have so many guards. I mean, you've got Trey Holloman. I mean, if Tyson comes back, Holloman will not have significant playing time until his third year.
That's correct. And
not to mention, I mean, if Tyson Walker comes back, I think Holloman transfers. Because you've got some dogs coming in the recruiting class that are going to be pushing for minutes.
Correct.
And he might be the odd man out. So that'll be interesting to see.
Correct. It's interesting because, I'd like Walker to come back. Short to keep it short, I'd like Walker back, obviously. Malik Hall, I like him back, kind of. I have very mixed feelings about Malik Hall because, like you said, you can always see the glimpses. You can always see, the flashes. I can remember a couple of games where, thinking back, where Malik Hall, you were just like, oh my gosh, this guy could be the team leader. This guy could be everything you wanted him to be and more. But then there's plenty of other games you can point to and say, where was he at? But it's interesting. The point guard discussion is interesting because obviously you got AJ, who I'm sure will probably explore the draft process, not sign an agent and check out the draft process. If I had to guess, maybe the same thing for Tyson, or maybe he moves on, I guess. But the Trayvon Holloman is really interesting because, you got Jeremy Fears coming in next year, who's that dog. I mean, everything I've seen about him has been nothing but positive. So I got to think that, with the little guidance behind AJ Hogard and Tom, sharpening
McDonald's All-American.
Sharpening the
Jeremy Fears.
We're gonna see some growth out of him, but Holloman is just a completely different guard than those two guys.
I don't even know what he is.
It's really interesting because his defense isn't as good as you'd expect it to be for somebody that's as quick as he is. like, because I almost want to make the Tum Tum Nairn comparison, because it's like, well, you had a guy that was well liked in the team, which Trayvon is a good locker room guy from everything that I've heard, but he doesn't, he doesn't score really much. I mean, to be honest, he's not asked to do that, but also he hasn't really shown glimpses of that. He can distribute the ball. I'll give him that, but I'm not really sure exactly what he's adding too much at this point.
Yeah.
And I understand that when we took him on, it was going to be a project. I mean, you could tell that from early on. But like you said, it's one of those things where if Tyson comes back, it's going to be really, really tough for him to get minutes, and I could understand a transfer at that point.
Yeah.
So really, really excited for next year, obviously, with all the talent that we've got coming in. Another wing that's not even really getting talked about, that will kind of, play into the Joey role a little bit. If he can show that flash. Very, very excited. Really disappointed. I thought that we could have won that game, but like I said, in the end, I'm proud that everybody kind of realized their potential. If this ends up being the end, everybody kind of came to full circle, and it was just a matter of, it was a bar fight, and they just happened to get the last punch off.
Yeah. Tough to. It's hard to lose when you shoot over 50% from the field and basically shoot 50% from three.
Correct.
Unfortunately, they did it, but yeah, it sure wasn't for a lack of trying. That's for sure.
One final comment, Derek, if I may, not on MSU, but I think you like where I'm going with this. Derek, were we right or were we right about the American Conference? Because I know we didn't. I know we didn't get a chance to really dive into it, but Dennis, I know you're not here, but I know you'll watch this. Houston,
yes, you will.
Houston, flame out of the century. Who could have seen that coming? Cincinnati,
nowhere to be seen.
Got beat by I'm pretty sure some complete no-name in the NIT. Let me just confirm this, because I was pretty sure Dennis was saying yes. Derek, you're gonna be on barf watch after you hear this. I don't know if you're following this closely. Who Cincinnati was playing in the NIT? They lost to the Utah Valley Wolverines in the NIT. Utah Valley.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Utah Valley was a very good team. I believe their coach got a promotion to a bigger school. But you're the UC Bearcats. Proud storied tradition of Kenyon Martin and nothing else. And you just absolutely lay an egg against Utah Valley. Because they're the Wolverines, I will claim that as a Michigan victory. We don't need to talk much about Michigan in the NIT. They had sit out.
Okay.
Had some guys sit out, collapse down the stretch.
Derek,
we're moving on to next year.
Derek.
But UC losing to, I don't even know what conference
Utah
Valley is.
I'm looking this up. Derek.
MEAC?
Derek, just one last. Western Athletic.
Oh, the WAC. The WAC. Proud storied conference of the WAC.
Derek, can I get your thoughts on a 9-point blown lead in like 20 seconds of play for the Michigan Wolverines?
I mean, I saw it happen all year. Not much else to say outside of that. It was a tale as old as time.
Is Hunter Dickinson learning German as we speak?
Not yet. Not yet. I think he comes back. Hunter Dickinson has an
seventh
NIL
year
deal with Barstool.
Seventh year player,
NIL
basically.
Deal with Barstool. And I follow him on Instagram. I get his paid advertisements every now and then. Sometimes I think he has a Lowe's ad that he does. A couple other ones. I think he'll probably stay in college basketball, because why not get paid to just have fun, be a villain, shoot your mouth off, and get paid for it. So I think he'll be back. You know what I would really love to see, Bob?
What?
You know what I'd really love to see? It's not gonna happen, but what I would really love to see. Drew Timmy has 1 year of eligibility left. He seemed to close the book on his chapter at Gonzaga, but did not completely close the book on his college basketball career. I imagine he's going to move on. But could you imagine Hunter Dickinson and Drew Timmy on the same team?
Oh my gosh! Don't
How
even put
awesome
that
that
out
would
there,
be.
Derek. Don't even
Could
put it
you
out there.
That would be we'd literally be the most hated. You'd have Hunter doing the big Dickinson energy celebration, and then you'd have Drew Timmy fondling his mustache going down the court. And I don't know, I think that'd be electric. Both of them can play inside and out. And it's not like Drew Timmy would. I mean, Drew Timmy's got some unstoppable post moves, so him and Hunter and Drew Timmy could play high low like nobody's business. Um, but I just wanted to put that out in the
That's
universe.
just no.
I wanted to put that out in the universe.
Dennis.
Major League Baseball is
Yeah.
underway.
Yeah. It is finally underway. Couldn't be more happy that it's here. Um, you know, just get a quick out of the way. Detroit Tigers, 4-0 loss on opening day. Not much to review other than SOT, same old Tigers, because disaster struck again. We couldn't even get a run across the plate. Shut out, I want to say, 29 times last season. And,
Sounds about right.
And if I remember correctly, I'm just shooting from the hip here, but and then we start off the season again under a new regime with a shutout. Now we were against Shane McClanahan, who did shove, but a paper bag could probably shove against this Tigers lineup. I'm disgusted. It could be a long year. Derek, tell me the Cubs had a better start.
They did, but before I get into that, I just wanted to say, um, there are 32 Major League Baseball franchises, Bob.
Yeah.
And there's some games still going on currently. Um, but of the 32 teams today,
Yep.
only 4 of them have been shut out. And the Detroit Tigers were one of them. The others, the Kansas City Royals,
Yep.
who are not really that impressive of a team, and the San Francisco Giants, who are also not going to be very good this year. Currently, the Cleveland Guardians are losing 3-0, so really rough showing for the AL Central today. They did manage to shock the Stros, Ryan Presley, first blown save of the season already. And then additionally, the A's will probably get shut out because they just suck. Bob, I think this year we may need to put our money on every single Oakland A's under, and I bet we'll come out positive for the year. Either every single Oakland A's under or every single Oakland A's opponent money line, because they're going to suck this year. So we need to keep that in the back of our minds moving forward, that the Oakland A's are going to be, they're going to be bad this year. But anyway, speaking of the other team, the 4th team that got shut out, the Milwaukee Brewers, baby. The Chicago Cubs defend Wrigley Field to open the season, take a 4-0 victory, chased Corbin Burnes early. That's actually 2 years in a row. Corbin Burnes had nearly identical stat line. 5 innings, 3 earned runs. Except this, or was it 4 earned runs? Did he give up all 4, Bob?
I can get the numbers for you. If you want to
He
keep
did
talking
give up
about
all 4. Yeah, so he gave up 5. He went 5 innings. 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and 4 hits. Last year he went 5 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, I believe, had 3 strikeouts and gave up 4 hits. So nearly identical opening day starts for Corbin Burnes against Chicago. And it feels good to win. On pace to win 162 games, Bob. 162-0 season is still alive for the Chicago Cubs. But it was a good game. Dansby Swanson and his Cubs regular season debut, 3 for 4, was absolutely piping the ball all over the field. Not much else to say. Not much else to say other than that the Cubs currently only have 2 true outfielders on their roster. So they're playing a converted shortstop in right field currently, which is it's a move. It's certainly a move, Bob.
Can't say I've ever heard of that before. I can't say I've ever heard of that before, Derek.
Neither have I. Neither have I. We have plenty of outfielders in the farm that could have came up and played. Not sure why we're only carrying 2 outfielders, but hey, if it wins you the game, it wins you the game, and I don't care. But yeah, glad that baseball season's fully underway, coming off the heels of a very exciting World Baseball Classic. Looking forward to the season, and hopefully the Tigers aren't as stained as they were last year.
Also, I need to throw in there for Dennis, the Red Stink, Hunter Green, Live Arm Inc. Zoinks.
Gave up an absolute moonshot to O'Neal Cruz. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, 101 mile per hour pitch turned on 111 miles per hour out of the park.
Yeah, I
absolutely sauced.
I heard about it because I'm facing O'Neal Cruz. Thank you very much, Hunter Green. Thank you.
But how about the big bad David Bednar putting the Reds to sleep in the bottom of the ninth, Bob?
Dennis, never a good idea to mess with the bed.
Bob, one last little tidbit for you. The Pittsburgh Pirates have a winning streak against the Cincinnati Reds. Do you know how long that winning streak is?
I'm going 9 games, Derek.
It is indeed 9 games. The Pittsburgh Pirates have taken 9 straight against the Cincinnati Reds. The hated, as Dennis will tell you, the hated Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, might be their chief rival up there with the Cardinals. Just dusted. Absolutely dusted by the Pittsburgh Pirates.
At home for the Reds, too. Unreal.
On opening day, with all the fans coming out in spite of the Castellini ownership disaster, padding his pockets, fattening his wallets, Cincinnati Reds fans loyal to a fault, and what do they get in return?
A 1-point loss.
And a 5-4 loss to their hated rivals. You hate to see it. And to make it worse, Bob, Shane Rosen, big boy, in attendance. I mean, just devastation. Devastation.
Clear and utter devastation. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Bob, couple more topics.
Yep.
The NFL, the Lions. Had we signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson by the time the last pod rolled around? I didn't think so. The Detroit Lions, Bob. Are they the bona fide NFC North favorites? Vegas certainly thinks so.
I mean, bona fide is an understatement. I mean, the Packers are in absolute shambles. Nobody has any faith or fear of the Minnesota Vikings, even though, they really haven't changed much. And the Chicago Bears think they're hot stuff, but in reality they're not.
Still a team that only won 3 games last year.
Correct. In reality, they're not hot stuff. So that means, I can't believe I'm saying this, but that makes us a front runner. Dick, what's the last time?
Dick, what's
the last time
in my life, Bob,
that the Detroit Lions were a betting favorite? A betting favorite for a division title. I mean, I don't know if it's ever happened in the history of this division.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
For everybody watching, and I'm sure most people watching are Lions fans. However, if you aren't a Lions fan and tuning in, the Detroit Lions have never won the NFC North as currently constructed. Never have won it. In, I believe it's close to 20-year history of the NFC North. Never won it, and we're disgusted. We're fed up. And if Dan Campbell doesn't deliver the goods, then at some point during his tenure, then it may never happen, and I will be on absolute tears watch at that point. Um, Massive move. Also pulled in Marvin Jones, I believe. Brought him
Brought him
back.
back.
Brought him
Brought him
back.
back.
Only can help. Only can help with the depth. I mean, we're not paying him much. We're not relying on him to do much. Certainly not the Marvin Jones that left Detroit.
Sure.
But back where he kind of made his name. I know Detroit Lions fans certainly remember some positive moments from his tenure. I'm glad to see that Detroit has been very active in free agency. I mean, we've got money to spend. We've been out there spending it, but I will say we've been spending it frugally, which we've been making business decisions, not committing too much money to really anybody. Some 1-2 year deals, some prove it deals, on guys
Brad
that
Home special.
the Brad Holmes special prove it deals, and we'll see if we got something. The secondary's been bolstered.
It has. So just trying to do a quick Google search. The Lions have plus 2,500 opening Super Bowl odds. Those are the lowest since 2012 when they opened at 2,200. I imagine the Packers were still the favorite to win the division that year. So I'm gonna go out on a limb, Bob, and say this is probably the first time in NFC North history that the Lions are favored to win the division. And correct, the last time the Lions won the division was when it was still the NFC Central in 1993, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers currently have a more recent NFC Central / North division championship than the Detroit Lions do, and they haven't played in the Lions division in over 20 years. So this is it, Bob. I mean,
Derek, is it? I know we'll talk about more when it gets closer to the season, but little preliminary talk. Derek, is it do or die? Is it put up or shut up time for the Detroit Lions?
I mean, it absolutely is, and this isn't just our own personal opinion. Straight from the mouth of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes to God's ears, he said, we're going to be competing for the division and for home playoff games, and we're going to hold them to it. And Bob, I think everyone can see how much water I have left in my water bottle. Imagine this being the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, it's time. It's time.
Chugged. We're chugging the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid this year, Bob. Last year I was just sipping on it. I'd sip on it, and then I'd go into withdrawal, and I'd throw it out. I'd throw it out, and then I'd sip on it some more, and then by the time the Packers came around, I was practically bathing in it. And this year, we are. I mean, the blood that runs through these veins is Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid, Bob. I'm going to be devastated, thoroughly and utterly devastated, if we miss the playoffs. If we don't win the division, I will be extremely disappointed, but I won't be absolutely devastated. If we don't make the playoffs, I will be crushed. Absolutely, utterly crushed. Now, as the caveat, if this team gets, super injury bitten, which hopefully it doesn't, but let's say, Jared Goff goes down for the entire season, and it's just one of those years, it is what it is. But if this team's fully healthy, ready to roll, clear, how many times did we say last year if the Lions even had a top 25 defense in the league that they would have made the playoffs? You sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you sign Mosley, you sign Sutton, you bring back Kaminsky, you bring back Buggs, and you build. We hopefully get Tracy Walker back to start the season, and that he's in good form. And you add through the draft, all of a sudden you have the second worst defense in the league. And even if they're top 20, this team wins 11 games, no sweat. No sweat. The offense only got better this year. Granted, all the other teams in the league get better too, save for like the Packers, who definitely got worse. And there's always going to be a couple teams that get worse as they rebuild. But just as much as every other team in the league has been getting better, the Lions have gotten better too. Offensively, you're going to have Jameson Williams with another year under his belt. You're going to have the Sun God with another year under his belt. You're going to have Jared Goff working with Ben Johnson for another year. You're going to be infusing David Montgomery into the lineup, who isn't just a glorified fullback and touchdown vulture. All respect to Jamal Williams, but I mean, he did his role and he did it very well. But that's what his role was. And then you've got an offensive line that maybe for the first time might be able to play 14 games together as a starting unit. Maybe we get Vaitai back. Took a massive pay cut, which was huge. Romeo Okwara took a massive pay cut. Bob, when was the last time guys were taking pay cuts to stay with the Detroit Lions? I mean, this is unheard of. Absolutely unheard of. Guys taking pay cuts to stay with the Detroit Lions. Yeah, it's hard not to be excited. Hard not to be excited. I like to think this is how Dennis felt going into Joe Burrow's third year, feeling like, you just got Jamar Chase in the draft. You feel Joe Burrow's coming off the ACL and he's going to be healthy. You've got prime Joe Mixon. You've got T. Higgins. You've got Tyler Boyd. And you're just going to really turn it up that year. That's how I imagine Dennis felt. That's how I'm feeling, Bob. We're going to turn it up. Kirby Joseph. I didn't even mention Kirby Joseph or Aiden Hutchinson having another year under their belts. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to be a Detroit Lions fan, Bob.
I'm really intrigued to see where this regime goes in the draft now, because I was expecting a lot of defensive backfield help, and I still think that we might see, a little bit of defensive backfield at some point. But we've made a lot of signings in that area. We signed 3 or 4 guys at this point that can play, a decent role for us. That we're going to be expecting to play a decent role for us in the defensive backfield. And, that only opens up space, to maybe pursue other avenues. Maybe to get, a tight end of the future, if we so choose, to maybe get
in the second round, at the earliest. No first round tight ends, Bob. We've experimented with that enough, I think.
Correct. To go there, to go defensive line, to finally after all these years, Derek, how many years have I been pounding on my proverbial table and saying we need a defensive tackle that can do something?
Well, we thought it was going to be Levi Onwuzurike, and then he had a bad back coming out of college, and he's had a bad back for 2 years.
Then we thought it was
he's never played.
Then we thought it was going to be John Pinacini, Derek.
And then he retired.
And then he retired on us.
The Big P retired right before the season started.
I mean, to say that we are in need of some defensive line help would be an understatement. Very intrigued. We can go a lot of different ways. We can go potentially even add some depth at running back with DeAndre Swift maybe potentially moving on after this season. Maybe we look to trade him or try to work a draft day deal around him. Not convinced what his future will look like with the team either. So I think this could be a draft that has a good mix of offense and defense, and I didn't really think I was going to be saying that. I thought I was going to be saying more defense, and if it ends up being that way, I'll completely understand it. I won't question it. But with the signings that we made, we've definitely been patching some holes, and I think that kind of gives us some flexibility, which is a really smart move from Brad Holmes.
Yeah, I mean, the way they attacked free agency, nobody has any clue where they're going. They could go quarterback if they wanted to at number 6. They could go defensive tackle at number 6. They could go cornerback at number 6. They could trade down at number 6. There's no telling, and obviously it all depends on the way the draft board shakes out, who trades up, who trades out. I mean, if you see four of the top five quarterbacks in the first five picks, you assume Will Anderson probably goes off the board. Maybe Jalen Carter falls to the Lions at 6. Through the interview process, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell will have determined whether or not he's a fit for them. Who knows? Maybe we won't get a chance to make a decision on him. But it feels like there's a strong possibility that they will have an opportunity to make a decision on him. Or does some other quarterback needy team decide to jump up to 6, grab one of the last couple quarterbacks on the board? Yeah, there's no telling where they go. They could package 6 and 18 to move up if they really wanted to. I highly doubt that happens. Just doesn't seem like a logical move to move up 2 or 3 spots. But yeah, they've got options, just like the song says, Bob. They got options. Yeah, but the one thing about defensive backs, I believe we only have one signed through next year, and that's Cam Sutton. I highly doubt Jeff Okuda's 5th-year option gets picked up. Jerry Jacobs also not under contract next year. And like we said, Mosley's on a 1-year deal, and CJGJ is also on a 1-year deal. So they could double up at corner sometime in the early rounds, sometime in the later rounds. They just got a lot of options. And I trust in Brad Holmes. Whatever he decides, whoever he decides to choose, I would prefer he doesn't choose players with a back injury history. But outside of that, Brad Holmes, I've put my full. I mean, never had a competent GM in my life. Never had a competent GM in my life until now. So feeling good, Bob.
How can you not? How can you not, Derek?
Correct. I don't know if you want to talk the NBA much. I mean, the Lakers, LeBron comes back. They're hot. The West, what? The 5 through 11 seeds are all within 2.5 games or something ridiculous like that. So it's really just, it's an absolute crapshoot. The Suns have sort of played themselves out of that. They've played themselves up into the top 3 of the standings, I think. I think they're sitting in 3rd. So they've sort of distanced themselves a little bit from the chaos. Kevin Durant is back after that goofy ankle injury he suffered. And then the 76ers are in free fall. Lost 4 out of the last 5. Boston sort of got a stranglehold on the first seed in the East. What do you think, Bob? What are you seeing?
I think you kind of did a good job of giving a pretty good synopsis. The Lakers have looked really, really good. As of late, finally hitting the 500 mark, I believe, record-wise, which it's crazy to think that, being 500 is good enough to be, I believe, now the 8th seed in the West. But they looked good. LeBron is.
I misspoke. The Celtics are currently the 2nd seed, 2 games behind Milwaukee. But they just dusted Milwaukee 140-99 tonight.
Wow.
41 points, Bob. When was the last time you saw a number 1 team in a conference get blown out by 41 at home?
Zoinks. Yeah. There's been a really interesting race for MVP going on. Kind of a lot of back and forth right now between Joel Embiid and the Joker.
I think Joel Embiid needs some cheese. I think he needs some cheese for all the whining he's been doing recently. Dude is non-stop complaining. I don't know. Do you give Joel Embiid a pity MVP so he quits crying all the time, or will he just continue to cry that he should have 2 MVPs instead of just 1? I don't know. But Nikola Jokic lives rent-free in Joel Embiid's head.
100%, and I believe I saw that they did like a straw poll of the mocked voters of the voters the other day. Not the final votes, but it was within 3 votes basically of the 2. It's coming right down to the wire. Then of course you have Giannis in there that's still stealing some votes away from both of them. Because some people just are riding with him. It's been really fun to watch. It's been some good games this season. I'm really really intrigued for the playoffs. I think we're going to see a lot of good storylines. The Mavs have been in complete free fall as well since they got Kyrie, which has
Oh
been
my gosh, who could have seen that coming?
which is predictable. I was just about to say. Um, yeah,
No, Bob. Surely, the Mavs weren't going to drop out of contention upon the acquisition of Kyrie Irving. Surely.
surely. But yeah, very very excited for the play in and playoffs, which is coming upon us rapidly. Um, just hoping that the Lakers can move up a couple more spots just to avoid the play in. Excuse me, but they have really looked better as of late. They're actually playing defense since the trade deadline. The Lakers are first in defensive efficiency, actually, which is a complete flip of the script from where they were at the beginning of the season. Um, yeah, very very fun stuff to watch.
Yeah, and the only other point I wanted to make, Pistons, the tank is fully blown. Full blown tank. Let me check Tankathon real quick. I believe they have finally lost their way into the worst team by record overall. Yes, at 16-60, they are the number one worst team in the league. Uh, Trailed closely by the Houston Rockets at 18-59 and the San Antonio Spurs at 19-57. Um, that leaves what? Pistons have 6 games left. So if they lose 4 out of the last 6, they'll be the worst team in the league. It doesn't really do much since the lottery is super stupid, and they aren't guaranteed the first pick. But Bob, just want to envision for a second. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Victor Wembanyama, Jalen Duren. I mean,
The young talent,
does it get any better than that?
the young talent.
Only if they added LeBron James, I'm sure.
Correct. Bronny James.
Oh,
The,
give me a break.
the,
Bronny James. No, I don't need it. I don't need to hate on a high schooler. I won't do it. I won't hate on a high schooler. He's just a kid. It's not his fault that LeBron James is his dad. So I'll leave it at that.
correct.
But Bob, masterful tank job done by Dwayne Casey. I do worry.
Who should be getting the can any day now?
I mean, here's the thing, Bob. I just don't know what to make of Dwayne Casey. Is he the great? I mean, he willingly tanked his win percentage for the process, and he could be canned for his, dedication to tanking. Everyone says he's this great player development guy. I don't watch nearly enough of the Pistons to know whether that's true. You're shaking your head, so I'll say it's an overrated
I'm about.
characteristic
I'm.
that people attach to him.
He's overrated in winning. I'll tell you that. I mean,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I mean, the way they lose is crazy. Crazy. I mean, it's not like they get blown out all that much. They play really competitive basketball for 4 quarters. But I don't know if you saw the most recent loss. Just a complete and utter refusal to box out and against Oklahoma City, and gave up one of the easiest tip-in buzzer beaters of all time. And this isn't the first time that's happened. I can't remember if it was against the Bulls or the Sixers, but they lost another game only, a month or so ago. I think it was the Wizards. I think it was the Wizards, actually. 1 point lead late. Guy drives, misses the shot, and one of the easiest tip-in buzzer beaters of all time. I mean, it's truly fantastic the way that the Pistons have managed to blow games. So I don't know if Dwayne Casey is a genius or incompetent.
Tough to say. I'm leaning towards incompetent.
Yeah. Bob, will Killian Hayes ever turn it around?
No.
No. No. Is he officially a bust? Or does he have one more year?
Was the bust from the moment we drafted him.
I was worried you said that. Unfortunate. Outside of that, I don't really got much else to add unless there's anything you wanted to cover before we get into winners, losers, right bench baller.
No, I think that covers that on my end. I do have a nice right bench baller that that has shown through the garbage that I've had to watch today. That I'm excited to share. But we can get to winners and losers first, Derek. You want to start us off with a winner?
Sure. I just wanted to provide you with an update. Max Muncy is 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts tonight.
Thank you, Golden Sombrero.
It's worse than the Golden Sombrero. The Golden Sombrero is 4 strikeouts. I don't
Well,
even know what 5
given
strikeouts
the
is.
maracas too.
Yeah, not sure. My winner of the week, Napoleon Complexes, aka Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin, I was going to bring this up last week, but we didn't have a pod, refuses to take accountability for losing. Literally, within his opening statement of the press conference after their loss to Gonzaga, blamed the officiating right out the gates. Against Arizona, both times they lost to Arizona this year, blamed the officiating, and also blamed the officiating in their loss to USC. I don't know what it is that makes Mick Cronin so angry all the time, a grumpy little troll. But the only thing I can chalk it up to at this point is Napoleon complexes. So short kings everywhere with anger management and Napoleon complexes. You are the winner of the week.
I am going to go with Austin Reeves as my winner of the week this week for balling out last night for the Lakers, but also doing the classic getting revenge on Pat Beverly, who, of course, in typical Pat Bev fashion, I don't know if anybody's been following this story, but Pat Bev, the Lakers recently played the Bulls twice, pretty close together, and Pat Bev hit a shot over LeBron and hit LeBron with the too small gesture as he's running down the court. Well,
It was so funny.
the tables have turned, and Pat Bev found himself on the end of Austin Reeves just making a shot over him. And Austin Reeves made sure to let him know that he indeed was too small as well, as the Lakers went on to get a double-digit victory over the Bulls the second time around. So I'm going to go Austin Reeves, win of the week, for having his teammates back.
My loser of the week, again dating back to last week, none other than the rainbow-haired Latino himself, 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine was absolutely stomped in an LA Fitness, I think it was.
Yep.
He was out there rocking the Puerto Rican flag at the World Baseball Classic, I believe. He was rocking the Puerto Rican flag, right?
I don't think so. I think he was rooting for Team Mexico.
Was it the Mexican flag? Whichever one it was. He was either, you know what? How about I just save us all the embarrassment? And find it myself. Oh, he was also kicked out of the World Baseball Classic for getting too drunk. I didn't even know that part. Yes, 6ix9ine was waving a large Mexican flag in the front row. But he got kicked out of the World Baseball Classic for being drunk, and then he got curb stomped and jumped in an LA Fitness shortly thereafter. So 6ix9ine, massive L. Not much else to say about that.
Yeah. So moving on to losers of the week. For me, I'm going to go with none other than Lamar Jackson as my loser of the week this week.
Nobody wants me, man.
It's now been some time since that conditional tag was put on Lamar that 2 first rounders and he's yours tag, and pay him the freight too. You got to pay him the freight. But
Correct.
less and less, it seems that there's interest out there at the current price to bring him in. I know there was a lot of conversation at the owners' meeting this past week that occurred in Arizona, I believe, actually, Derek.
It
Um,
did.
and a lot of the top executives, owners around the league were all there. A lot of them were interviewed, asked about Lamar, asked about if their team was interested, and a whole big fat zero of them expressed any sort of interest in Lamar. And it seems like from what the reports have been coming out that the team and Lamar were more than $100 million apart in guaranteed money on what they
Yeah,
wanted a deal.
he said what? He doesn't want Deshaun Watson's contract. He just wants or what did he say? He said something about like he just wants how much Deshaun Watson was guaranteed or something like that.
Yeah, well, that would be quite a bit of money. Well in the excess of 200 million guaranteed dollars. Um, but yeah, there's been just really no clear sign of what's going to happen in that situation as of right now. Um, Teams are moving into the draft, and um, maybe we'll see some things shake up on draft night. But Lamar also doesn't have an official agent that represents him,
Nope, he
so
is his own agent,
yeah,
which is stupid. Stupid. Get an agent, you bozo, and you would have had your money by now. But
correct,
I digress.
correct. I guess I agree with that point. I don't really know how the whole agent thing necessarily works to the T, but it seems like if you had somebody potentially working deals for you behind the scenes, that could really help. But yeah, just loser of the week, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, not to mention Bob. The report came out that he asked for a trade all the way back on March 2nd.
Correct.
Um, I'll give Lamar this much. I think teams want to see how the draft plays out first. This close to the draft, a lot of the teams that need quarterbacks perhaps would rather have their own rookie quarterback on a controllable deal. Uh, and then maybe some teams will look into giving up 2 first round picks. But I think about a team like the Lions. Let's live in a fantasy world for a second. Probably like the 999 millionth dimension, that multiverse where the Lions trade for Lamar Jackson. They wouldn't do it before this draft because they have pick 6 and 18. If they're serious and think they're going to be a contender next year, you would trade for Lamar after the draft. So then your first round picks that you trade the next 2 years are in like the mid late 20s. And so I imagine uh, some of the more quarterback needy teams that are going to have some better draft picks this year, maybe they'd consider trying to get Lamar after. But yeah, just a super weird situation. I found the quote I was looking for. Then I have a couple honorable mentions I wanted to bring up. Quote, but the issue so far in contracts talks, I am told, is that Jackson is insisting on getting more fully guaranteed money than the $230 million Deshaun Watson got in his deal with the Browns. After my conversations in Phoenix, I no longer believe Jackson was insisting that his contract be fully guaranteed, just that the guaranteed portion of it be larger than Deshaun's. So he wants at least $230 million guaranteed. And who knows how much more extra on top of that. I think Kyler Murray is getting $230 million, but not all of it is guaranteed. How much better is Lamar Jackson than Kyler Murray? Realistically, how many more millions of dollars is Lamar Jackson worth than Kyler Murray? 40? 30? 50? Who knows? Only the owners and their contract negotiations. But I do really believe that if Lamar had an agent, this would not be the fiasco it's been. I don't know if you have any honorable mentions since we've had a week and a half. I've got a couple that I can think of off the top of my head. An honorable mention winner, huge dongs. I don't know if you saw the annual coaches picture, Bob, but Sean Payton was hanging fat meat. Uh, dude was packing the Glock, and wasn't afraid to show it. So huge dongs are an honorable mention winner. Uh, honorable mention loser, Packers fans, because Aaron Rodgers still hasn't been traded yet. I don't know what's taking the Jets and the Packers so long. Um, Seems like it should be relatively simple to work out the compensation, but I guess not. Um, and then another honorable mention loser. Who was it? Oh, Mike McCarthy for looking like an absolute goober in the coach's picture. You should check it out if you haven't already. But those were my honorable mentions for the week. Bob, your right bench baller.
My right bench baller is going to be none other than Austin Meadows from the Detroit Tigers, who although he wasn't able to muster a run with the squad, he did go 3 for 4 today. After a season last year, which he was, hurt for much of it and pretty much stunk. So to see him come out and giving us anything worth of production for opening day, 3 for 4, can't be mad at it. Was the lone real bright spot in the batting lineup for the Tigers. So here's to more of that, Austin, my right bench baller.
Yeah, that was 50% of our entire team's hitting production for the day was Austin Meadows going 3 for 4. My right bench baller, he's not quite a right bench baller, but he's not really a left bench starter either. Talon Horton Tucker, Bob. I don't know if you'd put him in right bench baller territory, but he's pretty dang close. He's not really a superstar by any means. Definitely ceiling his role player. But in Utah's win over San Antonio, 15 of 25 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3, 4 boards, 5 assists, and 41 points. 2 nights ago against the San Antonio Spurs. I don't really think you look at Taylor Horton Tucker and say, yeah, that guy can drop 40 on any given night, but apparently he can. Apparently he can drop a 40 bomb. So Taylor Horton Tucker is my right bench baller. Bob, garbage time takes your money. Again, we've had a little bit of a hiatus. Our right bench, or not our right bench baller, our garbage time takes your money from March Madness was Indiana versus Kent State. Kent State was a sexy upset pick for many in the March Madness world. The spread was Indiana 4.5. The over-under was 140.5. The total was 131, so the under hit, and Indiana won 71-60. Bob, that gives me and you a fat 0 for 2. Thank you. And Dennis went 1 for 2. He had IU to cover, but also took the over. We all took the over. So thank you for nothing, Kent State. Bob, what you got for us this week?
Gonna go into the baseball world.
Naturally.
Gonna go into the baseball world because we did have opening day. I think this matchup looks quite interesting. I'm gonna go the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks tomorrow. We got on the mound for the Diamondbacks, Merrill Kelly. Derek, you respected Merrill.
USA representative of the World Baseball Classic.
And a good friend of yours on the mound for the Dodgers, Dustin May.
Great Lakes Loons legend,
Correct.
Dustin May. Married someone who went to my high school, Dustin May. Ginger Flo, Dustin May. Big Dustin May fan.
Over under in this game is at 8. The run line, I mean, obviously the run line doesn't really matter all that much because it's pretty much always -1.5. So, for these games, we'll just go with a general money line pick because generally in baseball, it's pretty even for all the teams. The odds are not that far apart, which makes baseball pretty profitable if you can, guess the right team.
Correct. I can start. I'll take the Dodgers. Um, they pretty much ran over the D-backs tonight, and they had their ace on the mound, Zach Allen. I don't really see the Diamondbacks mustering that much offense on the season, let alone tomorrow night. So I'm also going to take the under. I believe it's 7-2 right now. So the over would have hit. I think Merrill Kelly's good enough to keep most of the balls in play. Probably gives up 3, maybe 4 earned runs. But this seems like a solid 4-1, 5-1 victory for the Dodgers. So I would take the Dodgers on the money line and the under 8.
I like that pick, Derek. I'm gonna mirror you on that. I'm gonna go with the Dodgers, and I'm gonna go under as well. Generally, at the beginning of the season, the pitchers always start out very hot. It takes a little bit of time for the hitters to adjust to the speed.
Agreed.
And unders are generally pretty profitable early on. So we're gonna lead
Unless you're
you,
the Phillies, Rangers, or Red Sox, Orioles,
or
which was
or if you're
crazy.
the Diamondbacks Dodgers tonight. But
Yeah.
anyway, as a general rule, the unders are good in the early season. With that, I'll give us the classic social media shoutouts at Garbage Time Takes on Instagram, at Garbage Time Takes on Twitter. You can find the link in the description below to our website. Dennis has sworn up and down that there will be a Masters article. You can hold him to it. He's
We're coming up.
guaranteed it. He's said it's been in the works. So there should be a full breakdown of it up there relatively soon if you are a golf fan. Once again, we really appreciate you guys all watching. Please feel free to share it with a friend. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our content. Really looking forward to baseball season getting started. If you are a baseball fan, this is a great spot for you. And of course, NBA playoffs. I will be all over it. So if you like playoffs, NBA playoffs, I'll be your guy for that too. Derek's into the NBA too. We'll get it done.
Yeah. Bob, I tell you what. Dennis has exactly 1 week. 1 week to get that Masters preview up. April 6th. April 6th, Bob. The Masters begin, so running on a tight schedule. But we all know Dennis doesn't have anything to do ever anyway because he's never busy. Villanova Masters programs are, if I do say so myself, a joke. So I'm sure Dennis will have plenty of time on his hands as long as they are not elsewhere to get his Masters article up on the website. But yeah. Only other thing before I close it off, Bob, me and you have picked the same exact Garbage Time Takes Your Money 3 times in a row. If we go 0 for 2 again, I'm fading you for the foreseeable future. Just to let you know. But yeah, anyway, Bob couldn't have said it better myself. Like, comment, subscribe, turn that bell on to get notifications when we upload a video. Thanks so much for watching. We will hopefully see you next week. And with that, in 3,
1, peace.
peace.